Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anna Maria Urbanova. I am here on behalf of COREX Foundation, organizer of the Hague Inter-University Law Debate Tournament, edition 2023. It is a pleasure to welcome the debate teams of Masaryk University from Czech Republic and Tilburg University from the Netherlands in the 8th finals of this edition. Today's statement for the match was released to the team 7 days in advance. It is as follows. Individuals should be able to claim ownership over their personal data beyond the raw data, which is a valuable asset that requires protection against privacy violations and theft. That note, as per usual, the teams do not know which position they will have during the match. That will be decided shortly. Not much more to say from the organization side. It is now time for the students to introduce themselves, starting with the Masaryk University debate team, Mr. Dominik Vostal.
Good evening to everyone. My name is Dominik Vostal. I'm now attending fourth year my studies at Faculty of Law in Masaryk University in Brno. Well, good luck to all. I'm really looking forward. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Joining us from the Netherlands are the debate members of the Tilburg University team, Mr. Kontos.
Good afternoon. My name is Spiridon, second year global law, and I come from Greece. I'm glad to be here today and can't wait to start.
Thank you. Welcome. Joining us from Czech Republic, Masaryk University debate team, Ms. Mane Hovhannisyan.
Hello, good evening. My name is Mane, and I hope we all enjoy this debate and let the best win.
You're welcome. From Tilburg University, Ms. Samborska.
Hi, I'm Lolo Samborska, and I'm also really excited to debate today. Yeah, and I'm really happy we made it this far. Yeah.
Welcome. Also from Masaryk University's debate team, Mr. Dobiasz.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to be here today. I can't wait to hear what the other team had prepared for today's presentation because, well, it's quite an interesting topic that offers a very wide range for interpretation. So I'm very curious to hear what the other team chose to focus on.
You're welcome. The two teams are also coached by professors or by former participating members. For Tilburg University, that is by Mr. Rami Fransavi. And for Masaryk University debate team, it is by Professor Martin Szwec and Professor Zuzana Wiekarska. Professor Szwec is with us in the room. Floor is yours.
Hello, it's a great honor to be here, and I would like to say that I'm very proud of the team of the Masaryk University. I'm also very proud of the team of University of Tilburg, and I'm also very proud of the organizers because we have been enjoying so far the competition very much.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you. Good luck again to both teams. In a short while, you will know which positions you will represent during the match. So just in a short second, if you could let me know when you can see the screen. Thank you. All right. So for the allocation of positions of this 8th finals match, the team positions will be as follows. All right. On that note, for today's session, the position against is assigned to the debate team of Tilburg University. As such, the debate team of Masaryk University will be defending the statement that individuals should be able to claim ownership over their personal data beyond the raw data, which is a valuable asset that requires protection against privacy violations and theft. The debate team of Tilburg University will be arguing against this statement, and as such, will be arguing that individuals should not be able to claim ownership over their personal data beyond the raw data. On that note, you now have 5 minutes to finalize your preparations, and the debate team of Masaryk University will be starting the session. Best of luck. Thank you very much. Your time for preparation is now over. We'll be starting the debate with the team's opening statements, starting with the team in favor, the debate team of Masaryk University. You have 4 minutes.
Good evening again. We appear here on behalf of the position for broader protection of personal data. I would like to guide the audience through the argumentation consisting of 4 main points. The virtual world might be more difficult to tangibly grasp. However, no one can deny that we are part of it. One's breach of privacy would occur if a bystander knew what activities we daily conduct, who we vote for, or with whom we daily communicate in the safety of our homes. The virtual world has become our home, and we would be surprised what can be deducted from one's secondary data in the name of connecting people. As Mark Zuckerberg himself prefers to not share in which hotel he stays in, each user shall have a right to hide his or her life choices. The private sphere of an individual is a sacred zone, as is exemplified by its protection through the right to privacy. The right to privacy is contained in Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights, Article 12 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and Article 17 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The historical evolution of the rights contained in the mentioned documents points to a clear trend. The width of the protection of human rights is being interpreted more widely as society develops. The European Convention of Human Rights is a living instrument. Thus, protection is often offered to rights and interests that were not protected before, such as data privacy. It is just for the individual to claim ownership of the personal data based on realization. In a similar vein, it is undoubtable that the inputs of individuals benefit businesses enormously to the point where businesses could build their entire business plan by processing personal data. Moreover, as the Special Rapporteur of the UN Human Rights Council points out, a great deal of data is gathered from ordinary users and subsequently resold or shared without their consent or knowledge. Hence, there's an apparent lack of transparency and control over personal data once they are processed. Special Rapporteur also identifies as the main obstacle to the right to privacy the lack of detailed rules and oversight mechanism. Many online services and platforms often require individuals to provide their personal information as a condition for accessing their content, creating a take it or leave it situation. This can result in a perceived lack of genuine choice and limited options for individuals to exercise their free will in deciding whether or not to provide their personal information. Moreover, individuals face power imbalances in their interactions with companies on the internet, as these companies often have superior resources, technology, and information which can enable them to collect and use personal data in ways that individuals may not fully understand or be able to control. This can further limit the free will of individuals in making informed choices about sharing their personal information. This concludes my pleading. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the opening statement in the against position, the debate team of Tilburg University, you have 4 minutes. Whenever you're ready.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. Your Excellencies, individuals, we believe that our burden in this debate is that ownership defined as the right to exclude somebody from using your property, doesn't benefit individuals or their privacy. We believe that the legitimate interest system of the status that's similar to the status quo and the notice and choice model is a better alternative. Data is a public good subject to conflicting interests. The use of data is non-rivalrous, as data can be used by an unlimited number of individuals simultaneously, and the use of one individual does not interfere with the use of others. Personal data is the subject of multiple legitimate conflicting interests. Case in point, our names. We each have a vital interest in our names and the assets and identities we link to them. It is a fundamental part of our identity. But our names also have a socioeconomic significance. They are a way that others recognize us and are used by society for voting registration, property registries, or financial accounts. For example, the transactions we conduct through a bank become part of the business records of the bank, as the US Supreme Court recognized in United States versus Miller. At the same time, the bank's interest in this record does not necessarily mean it has absolute control over them, as is shown in the Graham-Leach-Bliley financial privacy law. This makes sense. The bank cannot do its job without records, but individuals also have an interest in controlling their identity. But with an ownership conception of property of rights, the moment you sell your data, you dispose of this right, so it can be used in whatever ways which you no longer control in any way. Regulation should balance the interest of all stakeholders, including users and society, and an ownership model does not allow for such balance. The first argument on our side of the house is that it disregards the privacy interest of the individuals. My partner is going to explain how the interest of society are disregarded and how the system is generally impractical. If I may begin with my argument. Consumers often benefit from freely providing information for use in a particular context, but they can suffer a range of privacy harms if the information is used in an unrelated context, not contemplated when use of the information was licensed. This is especially important given, 1, the inherent complexity and vastness of data used, and 2, individuals' lack of time, technical knowledge, sense of urgency to make responsible decisions about their data. This doesn't change their interest in controlling their identity. They need to be able to retract their information if they learn about the privacy harm they had not taken into account, and this can only happen through an interest-based system, such as the right to have your data deleted, which is granted by the GDPR regulation in the EU, Article 17, with counterparts worldwide. In an ownership system, once you give your consent and your rights in your capacity as the owner, you can never take them back. We also believe that data needs to have a baseline of protection at all times to protect people's rights to privacy. Let's get into this in detail. The right to privacy must be protected, and it is established in various legal instruments like Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 12, or the European Charter of Fundamental Rights, Article 7, and most constitutions in the world, really. That is not debated in this debate. But this privacy principle comes not from the principle of private property, but rather that of an inviolate personality. This was convincingly argued by Warren and Brandeis, who were the first to conceptualize privacy even as a legal right back in 1890. Reducing privacy and personal data protection to something you can sell diminishes the protection provided by the right to privacy that is connected to your human dignity. It also raises the dangerous precedent that those who cannot afford privacy, those who need to sell their data because of their economic vulnerability, are not entitled to it. Ownership rights over data wouldn't merely harm the direct interest of users, they would undermine the concept of rights as we know it. The inalienable rights that forbid slavery protect us. Thank you.
Thank you. Your time is now concluded. We are now entering the first round of the rebuttals. At the debate team of Masaryk University, you have 2 minutes for your first rebuttal.
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to react to what has recently been said. And first of all, I would like to say that the term to claim ownership, we're not necessarily saying that it means applying the same principles that are connected to tangible properties to intangible properties. We are well aware of the fact that the analogies between the analog world and the digital world are very problematic, and that they most times lead nowhere. And we believe it is the case here. So in my opinion, many of what has been said by the counterparty is actually kind of supporting our position, because our position is centered around the importance of the private sphere of the individual. We believe that it is worthy of protection. As we have stated, we have emphasized the right to privacy. We have emphasized the fact that the inputs of the individual contribute to what a certain business or enterprise may do with the data they obtain. And also, I'd like to point out certain dangerous eventualities is if a certain standard that could be seen as a quasi ownership is not maintained in relation to personal data and secondary data in that matter. For example, Cambridge Analytica comes to mind, which is a very serious breach of the rights of people. And I'd say if we have some sort of a very powerful legal regime that can allow the personal data to be protected beyond the scope it is protected now, we could prevent such eventualities from happening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the first rebuttal of the debating of Tilburg University, you have 2 minutes.
Am I audible?
You are.
Fantastic. And I have 2 minutes, is that correct?
Yes, you do.
Just a second. Okay. Dear panel, you have more control over your data, and your data is way better protected if it is a right rather than if you can own it. Because an inherent quality and an inherent feature and characteristic of property is that you can sell it, you can dispose of it, and whoever then owns it doesn't care about your interests anymore. They only have financial incentives. And notice that this especially affects marginalized groups who, for example, are going to have a stronger financial incentive to sell something because simply, okay, I don't care about my data, I just need this money. And as always, the poor are going to be disenfranchised on their side of the house. We strongly disagree with this, and we think that the government has a principal obligation to protect your rights. Moving on to our second argument, that their model disregards interests of society. So as Spiridon already told you, society has great interest in the sharing of large amounts of data in broad ecosystems independently of individual consent. So well-accepted examples are for credit reporting, right? So we talked about bank clearing, compliance with your know your customer rules, fraud monitoring, and security. For example, your bank needs to have full records in order to prevent fraud. There is an explicit legal recognition of this importance, for example, in the Federal Privacy Law of 1970 or the European Union General Data Protection Regulation, which we already cited. But thirdly, it is generally impractical to have to establish ownership over data because you can't clearly identify the owner. No data sharing is exclusively yours. Data processing resulting from a decision of one person inevitably has spillover effects on others as a result of the same piece of data relating to and identifying multiple people. We will develop this later.
Thank you very much. And for the second rebuttal, the debate team of Masaryk University, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I will react to what has again been said. I do not necessarily dispute what has been said, but I would say that if we don't take the term claim ownership at face value, then we might come to find out that it offers a very wide range for a huge amount for interpretation, since it can mean regulation through the public law, it can mean private law regulation, doesn't necessarily have to be a rigid structure of tangible property rights being applied to intangible property. It's not necessarily the case we're defending. We're well aware, as I have already said, that it would be extremely impractical if personal data possessed the same protection as, for example, me owning this pen possesses. Secondly, we're not necessarily talking only about personal data or necessarily yes, the bank having our data, I wouldn't say that's necessarily secondary data or what is specified as beyond raw data. I would claim that our behavioral patterns that are not the same or to which the right to privacy does not necessarily apply. So even though that we would guarantee certain rights similar to the right to privacy, to personal data, I don't necessarily think that we would run into practical issues such as the banks, that the banks could not be able or would not be able to conduct any business, or that, for example, healthcare would not be able to do anything. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the second rebuttal, the debate team of University of Tilburg, you have 2 minutes.
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay. To continue in our previous argument, you can't really clearly identify the owner of data, but you also can't clearly identify the asset, right? Data are used in large volumes and perpetually change. Therefore, there is no constant substantive object that can be precisely defined by the property right. The nature of personal data is not clear enough either. The same piece of data, depending on the particular context, can be personal or non-personal, more or less likely to relate to an undefendable natural person and with a stronger or weaker link to that person. On our balance of interest points of view, this is not a problem. It's only a problem if you want to create a property right, which has to be clear and transferable. Now, we also believe there is a tragedy of the anti-commons because of the conflicting claims that can exist in the property regime of data, right? Because as my partner explained, it's so easy to attribute ownership to multiple owners of the same piece of data. Ownership either becomes so fragmented it becomes pointless, or you cannot effectively enforce the millions of property rights that are created. Now, quick rebuttal of the points that were brought up by government. They told us in the beginning of their speech that in the status quo, you cannot your data is shared without your permission, but regulations such as the GDPR and the California Privacy Act ensure that you have that right on our side of the house. They told us about the power imbalance that exists between users and firms, but they didn't really tell us how they fix it. They actually give more power to firms to just buy out all of the protections of individuals. Next, they told us that storing isn't the same as processing, although according to the precedent set by the ECHR in Grand Chamber in Sate Media versus Finland, it actually is. And finally, they told us that property rights are special and that they should be like intangible rights. Still, you can still sell them, and that is what matters, and that is the problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This now concludes the rebuttals. We are now entering the conclusions. The debate team of Masaryk University, you have 2 minutes for your conclusion.
Right, am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Right, thank you. Honorable judges, now we will come to the closing part. In this digital age, personal data is the currency of the virtual world. The misuse of this currency can have far-reaching consequences on an individual's privacy and freedom of choice. The right to privacy is enshrined in various international human rights documents, and the protection of personal data is a living instrument that must be evolved with society. We believe that individuals should have ownership over their personal data beyond the raw data. Thus, they can oversee how the companies treat their data. Non-transparent processing of personal data can have unintended and significant consequences on society. It's evidenced by the Cambridge Analytica scandal. Companies often have superior resources, technologies, and information which can result in perceived power imbalances and limited options for individuals to make informed choices about sharing their rather private information. Therefore, it is necessary to broaden the protection of personal data to ensure privacy and freedom of choice in the virtual world. Finally, we must recognize that personal data is not just a commodity, but an extension of our identity. Furthermore, the right to own and control our personal data is a fundamental human right that must be protected. Let us stand together and demand that our personal data is treated with the same respect and protection as any other valuable currency for the sake of our individual rights and the improvement of society as a whole. Thank you for listening us.
Thank you very much. The debate team of Tilburg University, you have 2 minutes for your conclusion.
Okay, just a second. Dear panel, privacy legislation should empower individuals through more layered and meaningful transparency and individual rights to know, correct, and delete personal information in databases held by others. Relying entirely on individual control, which is what happens on their side of the house, because an individual owns its data, owns his data, and entirely is able to control and dispose of it. This creates bad privacy outcomes, given that individuals inherently don't have the power, information, time, technical knowledge, nor any incentive to care how or know how important their own data is. They keep talking about fundamental human rights, but notice how you would not own or talk about ownership, or for that matter, because it is an inherent feature of property, selling of any other of your rights, right? Like bodily autonomy or like the right not to be enslaved. You would never talk about this in terms of property because it's simply too important to be toyed with. It's too important for an individual to own, as opposed to the government protecting it. And notice that this is about dignity, and it especially affects marginalized groups because on their side of the house, if you have a financial incentive to sell your data because it is your property, because you can do it, then obviously if you're a member of a disenfranchised group and you're poor, you're likely to give your data away. Then the rich are going to be the most protected and the poor are going to be even worse off than they currently are. We can never allow this. So we're talking about fundamental human dignity and human rights here. Privacy regulations should directly protect the abiding interests that individuals have in that information and also enable social benefits that flow from sharing information that we talked about. Their side is impractical and human rights are better on our side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This now concludes the graded part of the match. Well done to both teams. Well done on your 8th finals match. You can now relax, breathe in. I will do a bit of cushion for you to collect your thoughts, put away the stress of the match. And then we'll do, as per usual, a bit of a feedback round, first starting with the students, then with the coach that is present in the match. And of course, traditionally, we'll be closing the match with seeing the suitable connections between the teams. All right, so that being said, I would like to ask you, how did you find the debate? How did you find the preparation? And perhaps did you already encounter this topic in your studies? For Masaryk University team, Mr. Vostel.
Right. Well, I find the debate really interesting, and I would say far fascinating than the previous ones. But with the topic, I had a little bit problem because I'm actually writing a thesis on the European data strategy, which is a little bit connected with this problem. And actually, the topic was, I would say, it was wider than was necessary, and in some way hard to it was really hard to understand the topic. in that way. Even I, when I'm writing the thesis, I had big troubles to understand what is like what you want to know from that topic, from that question. But maybe that was just me.
Thank you for the feedback. Indeed, it was quite a bit challenging topic for this round. For Tilburg University, Mr. Kontos, how did you find the preparation, the topic? Is it perhaps something you already encountered in your studies?
Well, we study in the Netherlands. Of course, we have heard about the glories of the GDPR and the European Union regulation, but we weren't sure at all how we should incorporate the idea of raw data and non-raw data in this debate. And I assume the other team was kind of hinting on the comment about this now, because from what we have heard, most of the divisions were between personal and anonymized data, and perhaps yeah, basically that distinction. So we weren't sure how we were going to make a conversation about both raw data and personal data. I think it wasn't a big issue in this debate, which we're very happy about. But overall, very satisfied with this debate, very enjoyable.
Right, thank you very much. From Masaryk University, Mr. Dobiasz, how did you find the preparation? And did you perhaps already hear from the opposing side some of the arguments that your team prepared?
Yes, we did. We did hear the arguments we came up with. But nevertheless, to sort of echo my colleague, I'd say the topic for the debate was extremely wide. So we spent quite a lot of time even trying to understand what it actually meant, since, except for Dominic, none of us are very well versed in law data, or however you might call it. So it was quite an issue for us, and I think it shows. And also, we tried to take a very laid down approach to the rebuttals, just to hear what the other side would say and then react. But since the other side took a very interesting approach to the topic, that resulted being quite difficult. So that's fair play to them. Very well done.
Thank you very much. Indeed, well done for both sides to coordinate for the research and during the debate that you were able to match up on certain aspects. For Tilburg University, Ms. Zamborska, how did you find the preparation to match? And did you perhaps hear similar arguments that your team prepared?
So I found the match very enjoyable. At first, actually, when we got this topic, I didn't think that it was, if I'm being completely honest, I just didn't think it was within my sphere of interest at all. And I wasn't sure if I understood it. But then the more we prepared and researched for it, the more I realized how big of a debate this is already within like legal discourse. And so as in previous debates, this topic also gave me the opportunity to expand my interests and to just realize how this is a very important topic. But yeah, overall I found the match very important and very interesting, and I didn't encounter this topic during my studies. Yeah, it was very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. From Masaryk University debate team, Ms. Hovhannisyan, how did you find the topic, the match, the arguments of your team and the opposing team?
I believe the most important things were already said, but it was also very enjoyable for me. The topic was rather new, and I haven't encountered with anything even near to this field of law. However, regarding the preparation, it did take some days, some nights to be able to fully deep into the topic, because one must understand, so we could spontaneously argue and react within the debate. So it was definitely enriching, and I guess we all gathered hard skills and soft skills as well, obviously.
Thank you very much. Indeed, on the organizing side, we always hope that the topics bring the knowledge that you already have gained throughout your studies. And of course, perhaps possibly in some cases might spark an interest, or it's already something that is of interest to you throughout your studies or potential future careers. So it's always good to see how you manage the research and execution of the research during the debate. After all, it's quite a challenging topic. The theme of the round is quite challenging as well. Well done to you both for handling it and for the debate that just took place. Not to take a bit more of your time, Professor Schwetz, as the coach for the team that made it also to the 8th finals, how did you find the coaching experience, or how did you find the 8th final match?
Congratulations. I was very impressed. The level of the competition is quite high. I will just echo what my students already said. The topic was very challenging. First of all, at this time, research was extremely necessary because we did need to figure out how to define beyond raw data and the secondary data. And this is something that requires expertise in IT law. And plus, I do have to emphasize that the question or the topic was very complex, and we have identified a lot of layers. For instance, whether to cope with the distinction between personal data and secondary data, whether to be focused on right to privacy. And at the end of the day, it was quite challenging to set the most compelling line of argumentation for us. But I do appreciate it. It was very intense week, however, very worthy for us, for all of us, I hope.
Thank you very much for the feedback. Again, a really good job for the both teams on handling the topic and for executing the debate. As per usual, you'll receive the results as soon as we validate the form submitted by the 3 judges. Again, the judges keep grading the matches independently of each other. Once the organizing team confirms submitted scores, you are informed via email, and then the information is released via social media channels, that is on Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course on Instagram. You may see it as well. Your team will be facing the winner of the match that took place earlier this week. That is the match between Kathmandu University and University of Antioquia. So you'll be facing the winner of this match in the quarterfinals. After the quarterfinals, of course, the winning team will know if they are qualified for the final week matches. That is the match for the first place or the third place. Of course, as always, the final week is open to all participants. Some of the events are held in person. For one of the team, it's a bit closer journey to The Hague. The other team has a bit more of a distance. If you're interested in traveling to The Hague, please let the organizing team know. You can do so by email or via the form. This helps us gauge the number of interested participants for the visits in the international organizations. But also, if you have any questions on recommendations on where to stay in the city or what to do, the organizing team is always happy to support. And on that would be on the invitation to come to the Netherlands. And now it's time for the 2 teams to see if you perhaps already have some connections between each other. So already you have one connection, that is the Netherlands. You're participating in a competition that is based in The Hague. But perhaps, Mr. Dobiash, do you have any friends, or have you been yourself in the Netherlands, or perhaps one of the countries of the 2 students that are here from the THIULDT team? I believe that is Greece or Poland.
No, unfortunately, I've not yet visited the Netherlands. And actually, in the near future, I didn't plan to. Perhaps maybe if we go see the finals or visit during the finals weekend, maybe that could be arranged. We'll see. That's I personally do not have any friends, or I have not been yet to the Netherlands.
Well, indeed, a good opportunity. You already know two students that are based in the Tilburg University. For the Tilburg team, Mr. Spiridon, did you have a chance to visit Czech Republic, or perhaps do you know anyone from Czech Republic?
I know lots of people from the Czech Republic, but I have never gotten the opportunity to visit, which is surprising because it is not that far from here. So do feel free to visit us whenever you can. Obviously, easily find us through LinkedIn because I understand the foundation tags everybody, right? But no, never had the opportunity. But I've seen some really nice photos of palaces, and I would really like to visit sometime.
Indeed, we do tag everyone. I can say I've been to Czech Republic a few times myself. It's a very beautiful country. Different wonders, of course, are in Czech Republic and in the Netherlands. It's always a good experience to have. Right now in the Netherlands, I believe it's tulip season. And of course, I highly encourage both students to see the other countries. Ms. Hovhannisyan, did you have a chance to come to the Netherlands? Do you perhaps know anyone from Netherlands, or perhaps Poland or Greece?
Unfortunately, I've never been to Netherlands. I don't want to forget anyone, but I believe I don't have any friends who are from Poland or the Netherlands or Greece. But I have strong plans in the summer for visiting Greece for summer holiday, and maybe we can also catch up in Hague when we meet at the final as participants or as observers.
I think I almost saw an invitation from the side of the Tilburg team. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Indeed, like you said, it's tulip season now, so it's definitely worth visiting. Yeah.
I don't know what Lulu is talking about. I think we will meet in the beaches of Greece.
Or in the mountains of Poland.
Everything sounds appealing.
Yes.
Right. Ms. Zamborska, did you have a chance to visit the Czech Republic? Or do you know anyone from Czech Republic?
So I don't think I know anyone from the Czech Republic, but as I'm from Poland and it's a neighboring country, I have been to the Czech Republic, and I visited Prague and a couple of other cities, but I would definitely want to come back. And as to the connections, we're just curious because maybe this is just a guess, maybe we're mistaken, but I feel like we both recognize Professor Martin Schwetz from some other debating competitions, because we did participate in WSTC competitions, and Spiridon represented Greece and I represented Poland on the national team. So I'm not sure, but Professor, maybe maybe you did participate also in debating, or is this just a coincidence?
I do not remember. I do not remember correctly whether I've participated in this competition, but your faces seem familiar. That's for sure.
Right, that's wonderful. Seeing the connections come also from the past experiences in the competitions. All right, definitely, I would then encourage the two teams to keep in contact. Last but not least, from the participating students, Mr. Postel, did you have a chance to visit Netherlands? Do you know anyone from Netherlands prior to this match? Or, of course, organizing team not counting. You have seen us from the beginning of the competition.
Yeah, well, till now I haven't been in the Netherlands, but I want to visit it absolutely. And now when there is a time of tulips, so that sounds worth it. But actually, I know many people from Netherlands, even from Poland, because it's so close, and even from Greece, because I was last semester on Erasmus in Spain, so I met with a lot of people outside the Spain. So yeah, I have friends there, but Till now, I didn't have time to visit them. So maybe in next years, or maybe next month when there will be the final. So maybe we will meet. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Professor Schwetz, you already had a potential connection for the Tilburg University team, but did you have a chance to visit Netherlands? Do you know anyone outside of this competition, perhaps, prior to it?
Many times, and the Netherlands is one of my favorite countries, and I do have a lot of colleagues based in the Netherlands. And every time when I have the opportunity to go there, I look forward to being there and staying there as long as possible.
Indeed, I believe you're familiar with my colleague prior to the competition as well, and we had the opportunity to have you as a judge in one of the prior editions. So it's good to see also the Masaryk University debate team in 2023 as participants. All right, so that officially concludes the session for your 8th finals match. As mentioned, you will receive the topics, the grades, as soon as we validate the form submitted by the 3 judges. You'll be informed as soon as possible. In the meanwhile, I wish you the very best for the rest of the day and the rest of the week. If you're interested in other 8 finals matches that were taking place this week, definitely you will find the overview, same as with the group matches, on the website. I highly encourage seeing some of the matches. They have been quite high level, including I'm including your match among them as well, of course. It's been increasing quality, I would say, every year. It seems like every edition tries to one up the other. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
you.
Nice evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.